Michael Phelps is the most decorated Olympic athlete of all time. He's won 28 career medals, 23 of which are gold. He competed in 5 Olympic Games, beginning in Sydney when he was only 15 years old and finishing with a splash at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio. Michael's also the founder of the Michael Phelps Foundation, a nonprofit organization focused on growing the sport of swimming and promoting active and healthy lives, especially for children. And he's an entrepreneur, the co-founder of the swimming brand MP. Most of us know Michael as a legendary competitor, but not everyone knows the story behind his stellar career. Michael attributes his success to learning how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and letting his vision be his GPS. Please welcome to the Think stage 28-time Olympic medalist, Michael Phelps. Welcome.
Thank you.
We are clearly excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for the standing ovation.
So, Michael, the theme of this whole conference is the race to excellence. How do you define excellence? Is it a goal? Is it a mindset?
I mean, I think every person can really define it in their own way. I mean, I think it kind of really determines on what they want. You know, at the start of it, for me, when I started this whole journey, it was with a goal of breaking a world record, winning an Olympic gold medal, becoming a professional athlete. Those were the goals that I had as a little kid. So for me, that was what excellence was. And once I was able to get there, I had to redefine what excellence was. And that's basically what I did my whole life. So for me, I guess it was kind of goals, because goals were something that played such a huge part in my everyday life. From the moment I woke up until the moment I got into bed, they were somewhere where I could see them every single moment when I was in my home. That's what really got me out of bed. That's what helped me on days where I was struggling. So I think goals are what really drove me and what made me try to become as excellent as I possibly could.
Your race to excellence, your life story started at the family swimming pool with your sisters. Tell us a little bit about why swimming became your favorite sport. Why didn't baseball take center stage?
So my 2 older sisters, they're 5 and 7 years older than I am, and they were swimming all the time. My mom was in public education and then going back for a master's, and we were always at the pool. So for me, I was watching them swim, and I watched my sisters get better and better, and they started traveling throughout the world. And my middle sister was 3rd in the world and 1st in the nation at 13, and I was like, whoa, that seems really cool. Like, I want to do that. And when I got with my coach when I was 11 years old, he sat down with my family and said that I could be an Olympian in 4 years if I really wanted to. And at that time, I was playing baseball, lacrosse, soccer, and swimming. And at that point, my mom was like, okay, well, if you want to do all of them, go ahead. And my coach said, well, if you want to make the Olympic team, you got to focus on one. So I said, okay, fine, let's do it. You say I can make the Olympic team, that's what I want to do, let's go. And for some strange reason, at that very moment, I trusted this guy and decided to say, let's go and do it. And for some reason, we went on this mission, and 4 years later, he put me on my first Olympic team. So for me, I think since I've stepped away from the sport over the last 2 years, I think I've been able to understand more of really what happened throughout my life and why things happened throughout my life. And I think what I kind of made up about that situation was he was somebody who trusted me, and somebody who really thought that I could do something I put my mind to, and he believed in me. And I think right then and there, that's what I was looking for, because my parents divorced at a very young age, and he was kind of like a father figure who really believed in me. And I think that was something that I was really looking for then, and I decided to say, okay, let's do it, and we did it together. And I think from that moment forward, we just decided that we could do absolutely anything that we put our mind to.
When you heard those words, you could be on the Olympic team in 4 years at age 11, I mean, was it hard to wrap your brain around them?
I mean, as an 11-year-old kid, you're like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, like, I'd love to go to an Olympic Games, right? Like, as an 11-year-old, you hear that, and you're like, all right, cool. Like, where do I sign up? Basically, like, that's what I was saying. I was like, yeah, cool, let's go. Let's try it. Not really probably fully understanding how hard it was, right? But, you know, I had faith in my coach, and I believed that he could take me there. And you know, sure enough, as this 15-year-old kid in 2000, I made my first Olympic team, and yeah, that was good, but it wasn't good enough for me, and I wanted more. So that was kind of the start of me just trying to do more and do things that nobody else could in the sport.
Talk to us a little bit about your coach and about your support system.
You want the good, the bad, or the ugly?
We want it all.
There's a lot of all of it.
From the perspective of the people in this room who are entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, we know success is not something that you achieve alone.
Sure.
So how did he and how did your overall network help you?
I remember meeting Bob or seeing Bob for the first time, and I remember going home that day and saying, there's no way in hell I'm ever swimming for that man. He is crazy. I literally saw him whistling in like these like different pitches and tones and running up and down the pool, and I'm like, this guy is, no, like, Mom, I'm not swimming for him. Sure enough, later, the next week, I was in his group. He had repositioned and taken up a new group of athletes, and I was one of those athletes. So we started swimming together, or working together, and he had different pitches for whistles. So one was pick it up, one was what the hell are you doing, another one was you've got to be kidding me. Like, he has like all of these different whistles, and you can tell on how quick they are, like back to back, the tone, how sharp they are, and you just get used to them. And so it took me a while to get used to him and kind of figure out how he works. And you know, him and I had so many kind of like head-to-head battles throughout our career, because you know, we're both pushing each other to the max, right? Because we both have these massive, massive goals that nobody has really ever thought of, and we're trying to conquer these things. So for us, when we spend this amount of time around each other, we just know how each other works. You know, like, he knows what buttons to press for me to be able to get that extra 10% that he needs, or that extra 20% out of that day that he needs from me to be able to have a chance to give these goals a real shot to be able to be achieved. And I think just the dynamics that we had, because it wasn't the typical coach-athlete relationship.
How is it different?
Because he was like a dad. You know, because it goes back to that story where I believed that he had confidence in me, and that was something that I really had never felt from a father figure, and just like that interaction and those emotions that we had and that passion that we had for what we were doing. I think if I swam for anybody else, it just wouldn't have been anywhere remotely possible to do what I was able to accomplish, what we were able to accomplish. And yes, there were days where I was walking out of the pool giving him the bird, or screaming obscenities at the top of my lungs. And I mean, we hate each other. And there were days where we wouldn't talk. But I knew that we had to go through that because we were the best team together. And you know, looking back at my career now, he's somebody that will always be more than a coach. He's always more than a friend. You know, he's a part of our true family, and you know, like I said, none of this would be possible without him. He still comes over like 5 days a week and plays with Boomer and does grandpa things and winds him up, and then we get to deal with crazy Boomer when grandpa leaves. But it's just that passion that we both have, that we're able to work together at something like, at such a high level, and even in the worst times. They were, like I said, there were days that I did not want to go.
Yeah.
And we had an arrangement where we didn't speak to each other before 8 o'clock in the morning, because I'm not a morning person. And so, we were able to communicate certain things to make sure that we were able to work the best possible way. So we expressed our boundaries.
Were you in the pool when you were not speaking to each? I mean, were you
Yeah.
you were there,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't talk?
I would walk into the pool at 6:30 for a 7 o'clock workout. We could not speak to each other between the hour of, from 6:30 when I stepped on the deck until 8 o'clock, an hour into the workout. That was just something we had to do, because I was a pain in the ass. I mean, it's like, I always hear my coach say, it's always so funny, because he's always like, he really wasn't the easiest kid to work with. Because people are always like, he's probably just like an Energizer bunny. You just wind him up and he goes. But no, it was like that for the first, probably 10 years we worked together. Maybe 8 years we worked together. And then I found out that I had a voice and I could talk back. So that's when our relationship got really fun. But we both saw that we have a lot of immature tendencies that we do, and we grew through those, and that was a part of the process as well. Going from high school to then me moving to Michigan and being on my own and living by myself, he couldn't treat me like the 12-year-old boy or the 11-year-old boy that I once was, because that's not how our relationship was going to work. And so it's like we really had to change and evolve through the whole process. And we got to the point at the end where the last 2 years were probably the greatest 2 years of our career. I mean, they were the most enjoyable. We loved what we were doing again.
One of the interesting things about being with a coach for such a long time is your first coach is almost like your first job. And sometimes you have to leave that first job to be treated like an adult. And the two of you managed to work through it, which
Yeah.
I think is, I just think it's an interesting exercise in how people, but also companies, can grow. I mean, how did you do that?
I mean, if you look in sports, for example, you're not going to find any coach athlete that is really with the same person for 20 years. You're just not going to find it.
Right.
I'd be surprised if anybody in here could pull that up, if you could find somebody that's been with an athlete or a coach for 20 years. It's just the longevity that we've had. It was just something that we both saw in one another, and no matter how hard it got, and I'm sure there are some questions coming up, I don't want to jump into them, but there were some really hard times that we went through together.
Yeah.
And it brought challenges to us, and we kind of just decided that we were biting the bullet, and we were going to get through it together, and just because we saw how strong we were together. The amount of years from, I guess if you look from I'm really big with numbers and stats. So basically from for me, 2001 to 2004, probably, I mean, those years were the biggest building years for me going into 2007, 2008, which were arguably the best 2 years of my career. And they were challenging at times, because those were the years where I went 5 or 6 straight years without missing a single day. So 365 days of the year. Doesn't matter a holiday, a birthday, if I'm sick, this or that, it doesn't matter. I was in the pool, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to make that sacrifice to do something that nobody else was doing, to give me the opportunity to potentially do something that nobody else has ever done. And I didn't care what I had to do to get there. I was willing to swim every day, because I wanted.
Where does that motivation come from? I mean,
Doing something different, though, because for me at 15, when I came back from the 2000 Olympic Games as a 15-year-old, and after the Olympics is usually when people take time off, where they take a break, they relax for 3 to 6 months, and then they get back into it. For me, I was into it the next day after the final of the 200 fly. I was 5th place. I was 3/10 out of a medal. I was upset. So I used that as motivation leading into the next year. And the very first day that we had a practice, my coach put WR on the top right-hand corner of the paper. WR meant world record. I was a 15-year-old kid. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know what this is, but why is this? What's this doing here? Why are you putting this in the upper right-hand corner? He's like, we're going to break a world record in 6 months. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, let's try it. Sure enough, 6 months later, I break my first world record. So I'm like, okay, like this is starting to get really cool, like starting to get fun. And by this point, every world record I broke, I got to buy something. That was my deal.
So it was bribery.
Yeah, because I was a professional athlete at 15. I had signed my first professional deal. So when I signed with an agent at 15, I told him that I wanted to change the sport of swimming. So I wanted to do something that the sport had never seen, but people had never seen, the globe had never seen. And to be able to have that opportunity, I had to be able to do things differently. I couldn't do it the same way that everyone had done it before. So for me to go 5 or 6 straight years, that meant I had 52 extra days a year. So, but also in the sport of swimming, if you take 1 day off, it takes you 2 days to get back to where you were. So, if somebody takes off on a Sunday, they're not back until Tuesday. So they're only getting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, as where I'm getting 6 years straight. So I'm getting that much more ahead of them. I'm getting that much more work. I'm in that much better shape. And that's what I had to do to basically set up for 08.
So when you talked about the WR in
World record.
In the corner, in your book, you wrote a lot about visualization, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that WR, that's visualization. You're visualizing that world record. Talk about how that became part of your process and why you think it's so helpful.
I mean, for me, when I got to a swim meet, there's nothing that I can control at that point, right? I can control what I do and how I prepare, sort of getting up behind the block and just racing. I can't control what anybody else does. So for me, I want to know how the race could go, how I don't want the race to go, and in a perfect world, how the race should go. Because it all goes back to preparation. If you're not preparing yourself before the meet, you're not going to get the time you deserve. So for me, I have to make sure I'm doing all the work leading up to a big meet so that I get behind the block and I don't have to think about anything else. I'm not worried about how I prepared. So I started visualizing at like 13, 14, just so everything around me was taken care of when I got to a meet. So I could be completely relaxed. So when I put my headphones on, all I'm thinking about is the music. I get to go up and just do what I practice to do. All of those countless hours of staring at the black line at the bottom of the pool, that was for this moment. So I just never really thought when I got behind the block and let everything do what was supposed to happen. If I didn't get the results that I wanted, then I would just go back to the drawing board. And that's really just how I worked my whole life. But I mean, visualizing just, it just mentally prepares you and you can kind of check that box off. And I think that's what we wanted to do. Every time we got to a major international competition, we wanted to check off as many boxes as we could. Because if we did that, then what else do we have to worry about? Everything else is just going to happen naturally like it should.
Does it extend to the people that you want to beat, the times that you want to hit? We read that you put a poster of Ian Crocker up in your room to motivate
I saw this
you
question,
because
I didn't know if you were going to ask it or not.
Because he beat you in the 100-meter fly at the Athens Games.
He gave me one of the biggest beatdowns that I probably ever took in 05. So I had won. So we went. A Russian broke the world record in the first semifinals. I broke the world record in the second semifinals. Crocker broke the world record in the finals. Back-to-back days in 2003. 2004, I came back and won the gold medal in the 200 fly, in the 100 fly by 4/100ths of a second. In 2005 World Championships, he literally beat me by a body length in the last 40 meters of the race, and I was second. And that was probably to this date the biggest beatdown I've ever taken in my life, and that frustrated me to no other. And for me, if I have a loss like that, that's going to stick with me more than any other victory. So for me, I wanted to replay that in my head and to know what that felt like. because I was going to do everything in my power, preparing myself for that next summer to have a rematch to make sure it was not like that. And that's just how I worked. Like, I mean, I'm happy that I didn't have many losses, but I would have liked more because they really motivated me. Like, the loss in 2012 in the 200 fly killed me for like 2 years. I mean, devastated me for 2 years.
And yet, you kept going.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you talk to audiences of business people, and I mean, how can we all use the losses and the frustrations that we face every single day to get ahead and to set world records, because we don't get to buy something every time we break one?
But it goes. I was 15 or 16, so there's a way.
Wait, I just want to know. We all want to know, and then I'll let you finish. But what'd you buy?
I bought a car when I was 16. I bought an Escalade. That was my first car. I wanted a big screen TV and a leather couch in my room. So I somehow played Tetris perfectly in my room to make sure that they all fit. It was just like all those little things. I mean, but it was just a way that I always kept going. And like, yeah, as a 15-year-old kid, like I was a professional athlete and I was making very good money. And I never knew how much I was making. So I was like, you know, my mom was like, yeah, I'll go let you buy a $800 TV. Like, you have no idea what's going into the bank. Sure, like, go ahead. Like, just keep breaking world records and you can go ahead and do, just keep everything going. So it was, I don't know, it was just kind of a way for me to just keep working harder and harder. And I guess, I mean, I look back and that probably is going to be the one thing that really actually frustrates me throughout my career is I wanted 40 world records. I wanted to finish with 40. And I was one short. And that's 40. Like I said, I like numbers for certain reasons. I don't know why. I think 40 sounds better than 39. So I'm going to nitpick certain little things about my career throughout my life.
Let me come back to the question about the losses.
Please.
How do you use them? I mean, how would you, if you were teaching this class, how would you teach other people to use them?
I mean, if everything was exactly perfect and we got everything we wanted every single step of the way, would that really be that fun? Honestly, like, would that be fun? No, right? You want to be able to work at something. You want to be able to put the work and put the time in to be able to accomplish the goal that you have. And for me, my goals were times. So I had to put the work in to get those times. If I didn't get the times, I went back to the drawing board because those times were so important to me. I wasn't racing anybody else. I was racing myself when I was in the pool. I didn't care what anybody else did. If I went the times that I had on my goal sheet, I knew there was not another soul on that planet that could have done the times that I had written down. So I didn't care. So like, and I'm the first one to admit that my life and my career was not a smooth, easy road. So I had a lot of ups and downs. I went through a lot of tough times, but I was still able to do everything that I possibly wanted inside the swimming pool. So it's basically the same way. So for me, it's goals. And I'm sure you guys don't just roll out of bed with no purpose or this, that, the other when you go to work, do you? I mean, I hope not. I really hope not. But, you know, like, but that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, like, you have a goal that you want to get to, right? And if you can't get there by yourself, then you can ask for help. Or you can ask your teammates. Or you can ask for advice. And that's something that really helped me just kind of get through. Like, I guess when I learned that I could ask for help, that's when my life got easier. And that's why I say the last 2 years of my career were the most enjoyable of my life. But I mean, I think like that's kind of anything. Like if you really want something and if you care about something that much, like it doesn't matter if you don't, like if you're not super successful the first time. Because if it's something that you're truly passionate about, you're gonna get up and do it again. And do it again. And do it again. It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. Like, look, like, I mean, I was somebody who was picked on all the time. My teacher in middle school, I was told that I would never amount to anything. My 6th grade English teacher told me that. I was picked on and made fun of because I had big ears. I was picked on and made fun of because I shaved my legs. and I wore little small swimsuits. I was picked on and made fun of because I had to go to the nurse's office and get my Ritalin because I have ADHD. You know, so like all of these things went on, but you're still able to fight through because the goals are that special and they're that meaningful. So for me, it doesn't matter how hard it is to get there. If you really want something, there shouldn't be a damn thing in this world that should stand in front of you and accomplishing that goal. And that's the bottom line. Because our mind, if we put our mind to something, we can accomplish truly everything. I mean, do you think people thought I was absolutely crazy for wanting to win 8? Yeah. I guarantee you they were. People publicly said it. I didn't care because I wanted it and I knew it was possible. I stood up and did it, and I proved somebody wrong. So if you want to prove somebody wrong, you got to do the work to get there. That's all it's going to, I mean, that's all it is. There's no other secret, like, formula, this, that, and the other.
I think everybody sitting here can absolutely identify with that, and also identify with your description of being picked on. I mean, the credit union field, it is a field of underdogs, people who feel like underdogs on a regular basis. And you wrote that you always have identified with them. What's the best way to use that feeling of being the underdog to push you?
It's always fueled me. I mean, people who have always doubted me in my career, I have always jammed their words right down their throat every time. I mean, and honestly, there's nothing more rewarding than doing that. You know, like, I mean, like, I can't tell you, like, enough. Like, I mean, like, I'll say, like, so Ian Thorpe is an Australian swimmer, and going into 2008, he publicly stated that there's no way it's possible to win 8 Olympic gold medals. I highlighted that comment, and I posted it in the back of my locker. So every day I went into practice, and I saw that comment. And I was like, all right, dude, well, here you go. So this time around in 2016, he publicly said that no male or female over the age of 30 will ever win an individual gold medal. So I was like, oh, okay, well, we're going to show you you're going to eat those words. So I said to him afterwards, he came over for our wedding, and I was like, Thorpe, I was like, man, you know, as a friend, I was like, you really had some nice words for me. And he goes, yeah, but you know what? He goes, I know how your mind works. And he goes, and I know what you're going to do with them. So he goes, you can thank me. And we both just started laughing. So it was kind of funny, but that's always what I've done with words. Or, I mean, you know, think of the 2008 4x1 free relay that we beat the French by 9/100ths, where, you know, with 30 meters to go, it looked like it was over. So, you know, and they were running around after the prelim session saying that they were going to smash us. So we got wind of that, and things happened how they happened, and we won the race. So yeah, but I've always used that as motivation, and you know, like, if somebody doubts me, like, go ahead, you know, honestly, let them talk that way to me, but I'll show you what's going to happen. I mean, that's, for me, like, I've always been that kind of person. I've always let my actions do all of the talking. You know, people who have chirped or run their mouth or danced in ready rooms, I kind of just sit and wait for my time to go and show what I'm going to show, and then that's it.
You mentioned your goal sheets. I think that's an interesting way to go about charting your progress, right? Explain how they work and what they are and how you keep them, and do you still keep them?
Yes, I'll get there. As an 11-year-old kid, I started writing goal sheets with Bob, and we did short-term and long-term goals, and we basically planned out how we were going to get there. So our motto basically turned into dream, plan, reach. Come up with a dream that we want to accomplish, figure out how we're going to get there, plan it out, and reach for it. So for me, I started with little times, and once I hit those times, I just instantly changed them and made them super fast and tried to get them again. But they were broken down into splits, like detailed splits by each 50. And for every single one, they were plastered basically in my closet or next to my bed, so I could see them every single day. Because there were days where I didn't want to get out of bed. There were days where I'm sore, I can't move, I don't want to swim, I'm tired, I don't feel well, this, that, the other. I'm sure we all have days like that. Unless somebody really likes to get out of bed every day and go to work. If we have any of
We
those,
all like to get out of bed every day. And go
I
to
swear,
work.
if we have one of those, I'm calling you a liar. It's not real. So I just had them there because I had to have some idea of what I was doing every single day, and I needed to visually see that. And for me, if I could go to practice on a day where I was feeling, 30%, and I could get 20% out of the workout instead of getting 0, that's better than none. So I always tried to use little things to keep me motivated throughout my journey of trying to accomplish these goals. And I'll share 2 stories. I had one goal, the goal sheet from Rio, I hit one goal. The 400 free relay, the very first day, that was the only goal time I hit. I wanted to break a world record in the 100 fly and the 200 IM, or the 200 IM. I would have taken either one, to be honest. But that didn't happen. And then I called my coach afterwards. We got home from Rio a few weeks after, gone past, and I said, Bob, I only accomplished one of my goals. And he said, let it go. Just let it go. And I was like, well, that's not very fun. But goal sheet now, yes, I still have a goal sheet now. But my goal sheet now is different because for so long, my goal sheets were all about times. That's all it was about. So for me, it's kind of bizarre kind of thinking back. My agent, who is kind of like a father to me as well, said, where do you want to be in 5, 10, and 20 years? And he asked me like 5 or 6 years ago, and I looked at him like he was crazy for writing this in front of me. Like, I have no idea. Like, I couldn't tell you where I was going to be tomorrow. So for me now, it's trying to come up with those things. And now it's making that transition from being in the pool and being submerged in water for 4 hours a day to having a family and to being on the road and working a little bit and to making sure we're taking care of our everyday needs. So it's a little different now. And I think, but the biggest thing I think that really helped me was after 12, going through kind of that first retirement spell to now where we are today, because now it's not just about me. Like it's not my career anymore. It's what do I want for my family, and what can I give for my family that they can have everything that they want, and we can have everything we want, and kind of planning for the future. So I'm in the process. Why I think that's funny is I've been saying to my wife, I have like 4 or 5 different journals that I take when I travel, and I start jotting notes down on them, and I'm trying to put them all on one piece of paper, and that then we can come together and talk about things that we want to do together. But it's been like 3 months, and I can't find 1 or 2 of my journals, so my wife really isn't that happy with how long I'm procrastinating right now. But that's something that we want to do, because it was all about me before, and I think we want to be able to do it as a family. And that's what's been really cool about watching the transition that Nicole and I have both gone through.
I don't know if everybody knows, but you and Nicole just welcomed your 2nd child 14 weeks ago. Michael's not sleeping.
A little bit. I sleep more than Nicole does, that's for sure. So we just welcomed Beckett into the world. So Beckett's, I believe, 14 weeks, and then Boomer just turned 2 Saturday. So it's a crazy household. It's a fun little household we have, and this part is fun for me because I wasn't here this time. So at this point, Boomer was at the Olympics. So I'm just kind of now learning the earlier process of having a child in the first couple months, and
What's a typical...
how interesting it is. I'm learning more patience with the 2nd child than I did with the first.
All the parents are
That's
nodding. Good. They're nodding and understanding what you're going through. But tell us, it's not just having a family. You're a businessman. You've got things going on with the foundation, with the swimwear line. What's a typical day like for you now?
It depends. I mean, there are times where I'll be on the road for 2 weeks straight, and a lot of it will be international travel, or I'll kind of jump around and knock 3 different cities out or 4 different cities out in a 10-day span and just do a bunch of different appearances. And if I'm doing that, and the family stays home. But right now, I've been very fortunate to be able to stay home and work from home. So now I wake up every morning with Booms early. I mean, I'm the first one out of bed at 6:30 in the morning with him, and we start our day together. So if he wants to go outside, we go outside first, or we go for a car ride, or we spend probably like 3 or 4 hours together in the morning, and he'll go to school twice a week. But I mean, my typical day at home is I work out 6 or 7 days a week. I spend 2 to 3 hours on the phone every day and working emails. Nothing really too big. But I mean, for me, like, this is something that I have to have. Like, I need structure. Like, I have so many friends who are actually retired, and I don't know how they do it, because I can sit still for like a week, and then I feel like I'm gonna go crazy just staying in one place. It drives me crazy. So I need to travel. I need to have a busy schedule. And now being home with 2 kids, it is a very busy schedule with trying to work and add all that together. So we're in a good spot right now.
In my experience, people who like a challenge always like a challenge.
Always. I mean, I'll have to have it like this my whole entire life. I mean, I think it's just having a structured life. I mean, really from the age of 10, I don't know anything different.
But what's the challenge now? What are you, whether it's in the form of goal sheets that you haven't?
I think it's the everyday challenge that I had before. I mean, it's like, I think, so for me, kind of going through 2012, for me, was a really big struggle. From 2008 to 2012 was probably the hardest 4 years of my career, because I didn't want to do it, and I didn't want to, I mean, you had to basically drag me into the pool every single day. I had no goals. I didn't want to be there. I felt like I was being forced to do this because I had so many sponsorship commitments that I just had to kind of fake my way through it. And then after 12, I could leave. And after 2012, I just found myself kind of lost and kind of struggling a lot. After 12, I found myself in a dark place in 14, and I decided that I really wanted to find out who I was, because I didn't really know who I was. And I think for me, I wasn't really able to show the real me to the world. I feel like I was always this, I don't know, I felt like I had like a mask on most of the times. So I almost wanted to just relax and be who I was and not care. And I think after 2014, with the struggles that I had then, with some of the things that I carried on and struggled with throughout my life with my family, with my father, and other things that caused me to reach this low point, I was able to actually really look at myself in the mirror and like who I saw as a person. And I think that was the first time in my life that I really saw that. And that was something that I think allowed me to relax more as a human being. And for me, I felt more like a human being than kind of basically what the media or what these people are trying to make us out to be. And I'm a human being who is just very gifted in the sport that I chose. And I go through the same exact everyday struggles that people deal with, human beings deal with all over the world. And for me, it's still the same today. I still struggle with mental health. There's still days that are worse than others or better than others. And it's just life. I go through the same exact everyday struggle that people experience all over the world. So for me, this is normal for me. So yeah, it's a challenge at times, but it's nothing different than what I've dealt with before. So this is kind of fun for me to be able to talk about that and to be able to understand that it's okay to not be okay and have struggles and have hard days. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much you want me to go into it. Sorry. I like to ramble a lot.
We're listening. No, I
ramble a ton.
No,
I just go.
It's interesting, and it's I think at this point in your life where you're looking at not just shaping your own future, but shaping the future of these 2 kids that you now have, knowing yourself and being okay with the imperfect and
Yeah.
bringing that to the equation is important.
Oh, no, for sure.
What are your goals as a parent, as a businessman, as a philanthropist? You can take them one at a time.
I'd never get too specific with any of my goals, and I've always been that way. For me, 10 years ago, I started my own foundation to help kids live healthy and active lifestyles, but also the importance of water safety. Drowning in the U.S. for children under the age of 14 is the second highest cause of death, and that's something that has to change. You know, we've taught over 20,000 kids to be water safe, but it's not enough. This is something that I'm going to be very greedy with and say I want more, and more kids need to be water safe. As a parent now of two, both of our kids have been in the water a bunch. They both will know how to swim. If they choose to swim, that's their own choice. But this is something for me that we're working every day on. We are in every single state. We work with Boys and Girls Club and Special Olympics worldwide. And this is something that I will go down until the day I die, trying to teach as many kids as I can to be water safe. Another chapter of what we are working on now is I'm on the board of a company called MediBio. We're working on a wearable device that works off of your circadian rhythm that basically tells you different stress levels that you're going into and can help with stress, anxiety, PTSD, different forms of mental health illnesses. The wearable device, I believe, will be coming out in the next 6 to 12 months. I wear a prototype now, and it's pretty interesting for me to kind of learn the stats that I can see, because that was something that I was so geeked out about when I was swimming, just trying to see different days of how I am and what's going on, and trying to relate them in my everyday life, to try to either take things out of my life that I don't need or put more in that I do need and is making me happy and is helping me on an everyday basis. And this is something that's very special just because it hits very home for me. I'm somebody who's suffered from a handful of times of serious depression spells. The most recent in 2014, where I wanted to commit suicide and didn't want to be alive anymore. So for me, going through this journey and understanding that there are so many people that are struggling out there, for me to be able to just to save a life, I think is something that's way bigger than ever winning an Olympic gold medal. For me, I actually just had a friend of mine yesterday who committed suicide. I grew up with his older brother. And there's a reason why the suicide rates are going up, and it's something that needs to change, and it's something that we're fighting every day. And it's something that's very special, like I said, and this is going to be a challenge, but it's something, like we said, I like challenges, and this is something that is very close to me. And then we have a family, so we have a very full life, very full schedule, but being able to honestly watch the two kids now, and with Boomer, you know, kind of going through the twos where, you know, everyone says the terrible twos, and you know, it's just kind of talking to him, and we've been really getting to the point where we can ask him questions, and another fun part is he's learning Spanish too. So yesterday he was in the mode where he didn't want to talk in English. So we only had to speak to him in Spanish yesterday, because that's the only way he was answering us. So he really does have a mind of his own. So it's you know, for me, it's so enjoyable just watching them grow through these transitions, but also, you know, like you said, being able to kind of mold them and you know, help them understand the experiences that mom and dad have gone through, and you know, just really, obviously now in this day and age, talking about life and just the everyday struggles that we all go through, whether it's on social media or, I mean, the list is so long. It's challenging. So, you know, and I think that's something that I'm so thankful that Nicole and I have been able to do, just be able to live our life exactly how we want. And if somebody wants to make a comment to us, then that's their own problem. You know, we're happy in our own world, and we love how things are now. So.
That's fantastic, and my condolences on your friend.
Thank you.
I have monopolized this enough, so we are going to open it up and see if we have a few questions from the audience.
Don't ask a food question.
I know
please.
we've got
Don't ask the calorie question. You can thank a British tabloid for making that lie. It was only 10,000 calories.
Do we have questions? We've got mics roaming around.
Wow, I answered all the
Anybody?
questions you guys have.
Wow.
That's impossible.
That is impossible.
There's no way. Someone's got
There's
it.
one right here. You want to stand up?
The question is, what's my workout routine today? So as of right now, I'm actually really only doing cardio. I've been hammering a Peloton for...
Me too.
Oh, I can't walk today. My legs hurt.
All right,
hurt
who's your
today.
favorite instructor?
It depends. So it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm going to do a 45-minute class, I like Alex because I like his music. There's the girl that does the hour-long on Sundays.
Jen.
Jen's good.
She's great.
Her hour class is great. But yeah, it just depends. Like I went like a month straight just to see what it would do, and I was just like I was blown away. I mean, I went a month straight and biked like I think it was like 20 hours, over 27,000 calories, and like 550 miles or something.
Okay, so this
And
is why the
that's all I do,
Peloton is so unfair, because I burn no calories,
Oh,
and I
I
work
hammer.
so hard,
Hammer calories.
dripping in sweat.
It's the output.
I know.
You got to get the output up.
I'm trying.
It's all in the output. Because my wife said the same thing. Because my wife took the same class as me. We both took a 30-minute Jess King class, and I think I was first in the class. I had like.
Surprise.
I think I rode 13 miles in 30 minutes and burned like 1,100 calories, and my wife had like 300 calories. And I was like, well, look at your output. I was on 60 resistance, and my output was like 350. And that's basically all I'm doing. I'm doing that and a bunch of core right now. I want to get in. We got sidetracked. It's really
Sorry.
easy for me to do. But I want to get back into lifting a little bit. This is the lowest that I've actually ever weighed since like 2010, and I don't like it. And I'm sick of people telling me that I look skinny. It's kind of frustrating. Like my mom all weekend was like, "You look really skinny." I'm like, "Mom, I'm working out. Like, relax." But I think for me, I think I'm at the point now where I understand that my body and my mind needs some kind of workout or sweat 6 or 7 days a week because I'm used to it. So for me to be able to be a good husband, a good father, a good friend, I have to get a workout in. So I'm actually probably going to leave here, to be honest, and drive home and hop on the Peloton when I get home. So Boomer will be napping, and that'll be my time to get on the bike.
One more. Yes.
hop in here.
Another one.
When you said you get ready for race, have you had headphones on listening to music and not thinking about anything at all? What would you listen to mostly? And did you really just zone out and not think about what was going on around you?
It depended on really, I guess, where I was and how confident I was. I mean, I was usually pretty confident going into a big meet. I think that, like I said, the 4-year span from 8 to 12 was pretty bad. But every other time in my career, it was usually hip hop, and that was it. But this time around, I went. I actually was like more relaxed and laid back than I'd ever been in an Olympics in my life. So I was like, whatever. I was like, we've been listening to a lot of country. I'm gonna listen to some country, and I had Eric Church. I had some Luke Bryan. But then I had like Lil Wayne, Eminem, Outkast. Like I had a bunch of like old school throwbacks. But when I'm in there, honestly, like I really don't think about anything. You know, like if you see, like, I mean, like this time around, I remember I was sitting playing a card game on my phone with friends, like across the world. I'm playing Pineapple with them. That's what it's called. It's open-faced Chinese poker. That's what it is. And we're sitting there playing. They're like, "Aren't you supposed to be in the ready room?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you guys could probably see me on TV in a minute playing Pineapple with you back and forth." Or I'm like texting people just because I was so chill and relaxed that I was in my own element. And I think, you know, and it's funny because I'm reading Agassi's Open right now, and it's funny, he talks about when he made that transition to really just being relaxed, of how much better he was. And that's really, like, I mean, there are so many little details that I can look back to Rio at and just notice that I was so relaxed and so calm, and I was enjoying myself so much. That's why it's the best way for me to finish. That's why, you know, I can look back 20 years from now and know that I hung my suit up at the right time. You know, I knew that everything was aligned at that very moment, and I was done. I broke the chair.
Any others? Yeah, right back there.
Hi, thank you so much
got
for
two.
bringing
We'll come
up...
back to you.
Hello?
We'll come right back to you.
Thank you so much for bringing up mental health. I think it's such an important conversation for us as finance professionals. I actually run a blog about getting out of debt, and through my research, I found that people that die by suicide are 8 times more likely to be in debt. And I'm just so thankful for you to bring up mental health, and I'm wondering, for finance professionals in the room, how can we change the conversation around mental health and make it more open to talk about?
I mean, I think just the statement of it's okay to not be okay is a great way to start. You know, I think it's, you know, for me to go through everything that I went through, I had to essentially become vulnerable. And that's a scary word, I think, to a lot of people. I had to go out of my comfort zone to try to experience something different, to hopefully get different results and hopefully feel better and hopefully be able to be prepared to go through other things if there are challenges down the way. So for me, I allowed myself to become vulnerable, and I communicated, I think, for the first time. I think that was something that I never did. I was somebody who was really good at compartmentalizing things and really just stuffing things away and never talking about them and never dealing with them. And at any given moment, I can explode, and it's not healthy. So for me, it was just about opening up, you know, and just talking. I think that's something that's so big, and also I know for myself, and I think we can all help each other if we see somebody isolating, to make sure that, you know, we can do everything we can, or we can try and help that person not isolate, because that's a scary place. And you know, I know that if I ever see myself isolating, that's a red flag, and I need to instantly pick up the phone or talk to my wife or do something to make sure that it doesn't escalate in another direction.
We had one here
Yeah. One in the middle.
in the middle. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, thanks for sharing about all the vulnerability and about being suicidal. And I wondered, do you remember a moment or something specific that happened when you were in that dark place that made you turn the corner and have hope again? Do you remember a time that things changed?
Did you guys hear that? It was a moment when I was in that dark place of what kind of helped me turn the corner, where I was suicidal. And for me, honestly, I sat in my room for 3 to 5 days, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to eat. I just wanted to be left alone. And when I start to think, I think that's one of my greatest things. When I start really using my brain, and I had peace and quiet to really start just thinking of other ways to go about things. And for me, I've never been somebody who's given up, and I didn't want to give up in that moment. So for me, I thought there was a different road that I could go down, and I started talking to the people who I trusted the most and who treated me like I was a human being, treated me like me, and were dead honest and open. And I just started asking questions. And when I found this route of going to the Meadows and seeking professional help was a way that could potentially help me, I decided to take it. And was it scary? Yes. I remember getting off the plane, and I texted my mom, and I said, I've never been this afraid in my entire life. I mean, the first 3 days, 2 or 3 days in there, I didn't talk to a single soul. I was left alone. I sat with my back to every single person. I basically would cry myself to sleep, and I wasn't allowed to work out because everyone was detoxing, and I didn't come in with anything, so I couldn't do anything. I couldn't work out. I couldn't do anything. I had to sit in basically like a little kid's room for 3 days and not do anything. So I was like, I'm just going to work out as hard as I can, do as many push-ups and sit-ups and squats as I can until I fall asleep. And after I did that. Like the fourth day, I remember somebody coming up to me and talking to me. And for some reason, I just let my guard down. And I think that's when I was like, you know what, I'm here. I can find help. I need help. And I just kind of tackled it head on, and that's what really changed my life. I mean, to be able to learn some of these things, and for me to be able to communicate with my father on a way, or on a level that we had never communicated in 30 years. And we were able to get things off of our chest that really just stuck with us for so long, that frustrated the both of us, that neither one of us we really didn't know how to communicate. So being able to kind of really have a relationship with your father again was something that I was always searching for. So for me, going through this process, by no means was it easy. And by no means would I ever change anything that's occurred in my life, the good, bad, or the ugly, because it's made me who I am today. You know, for me to be able to look at myself in the mirror and like who I see, and not second guess anything I say or anything I do, just do it because I believe in it and I love it, and this is who I am. And I think for me to be able to wake up every day and show the world who I am is a dream come true, because I wasn't always like that, and I'm in the happiest place in my life now with 2 kids and a family, and I would never change it.
Well, thank you for showing
No
us
worries.
who you are, and for all your candor, and he's amazing. A big round of applause.
Thank you,
for
guys.
Michael Phelps. Thank you.
See you back there.
Yeah, we're
Thank
gonna.
you. We good? Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. We are.